All right, welcome back everyone. My name is Jabril Ben-Sedrin. I'm hosting this webinar on behalf of CESA Systems. Today's topic is business transformation. And specifically, we're going to hear lessons from lean change management expert. Our guest speaker is Hector Villavicencio, and you'll correct me if I'm not pronouncing this well. Hector comes with 20 plus years in project development engineering. He's been a production and facilities engineering manager, production process excellence manager at Shell, Cargill, and other companies. His experience includes lean transformation projects, lean culture, production automation, and system optimization, from really the low millions to more than $4 billion. And he's currently the founder and principal of Lean TPS, which stands for Lean Technical and Project Management Solutions. He holds an engineering degree in power generation, chemical engineering, and he's a Lean Six Sigma black belt. So thank you very much for being with us, Hector. Before I pass it on to you, just a few words about our host, CESA Systems. Many of you already know CESA Systems offer 2,500 products used by 15,000 companies, some of which you're seeing down here. And we are a really turnkey provider for operational excellence tools, including training games, ergonomic and lean office furniture, workshop furniture such as workbenches, and some of these that you see here. Logistics includes the flow racks, trolleys, Kanban systems, floor marking, safety signage, and both digital and standard visual management. In the digital, that includes the screens as well as digital KPI management and wireless and-on lights. The visual management includes a variety of whiteboards, some of which you see here, and the magnetic accessories. So without further ado, I will pass it on to you, Hector. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yes, so let me share my screen here, Jabril. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We're going to be talking about a very relevant topic today, business transformation, lessons from lean change management. So why are we talking about this topic today? We know that in this environment that we're living in, where technology and change are the constant, we actually have companies need to actually go through business transformation, not because they want, but because they want to actually stay competitive in this business environment. So now, I would like to actually just share with you that anyone that is involved in business transformation will benefit from this topic. People that are change leaders, operational leaders, and any employees that are actually working in companies where there is a business transformation would benefit from this webinar. So now, in terms of the key objectives that we are actually planning to achieve today, is that we want to actually reflect on some of the lessons on business transformation that I have experienced myself by working as a lean coach, as a lean expert in different companies. And I would like to share with you a model or a framework, a mindset that actually summarizes all these learnings in a way that you actually can think about this approach and apply it in your business as you feel, as you deem necessary. So in terms of the agenda here, we're going to have three major points here to discuss. Number one is, what makes a lean initiative succeed. Number two, I'm going to be sharing the lessons that I mentioned before. And number three, I'm going to be sharing with you the methodology and the approach that I'm actually proposing to use for your business transformation initiatives. So first, the big question that I ask myself is, how can we actually make a lean initiative succeed? So that's the biggest question that we all the people involved in business transformation ask, how can we make those transformations more effective and more successful? So now, if you actually research the topic of lean transformation specifically, what you will find is that quite often the reasons for these initiatives to fail are diverse. And so we all know that we talk about project management, leadership in the company. We talk about things like the organizational culture, employee engagement, and so on. So I basically I'm referring to a paper from McLean and in the Journal of Total Quality Management and Business Excellence. And this paper highlights this I call it themes, and that's on the lean change management. Now, when it comes to overall change management or business transformation initiatives, studies by McKinsey and IBM indicate that the success rate of business transformation is in the 30 to 40%. So that's something that I would like to use as a reference to highlight the importance of this topic, because there is a lot of resources and a lot of employees morale involved in these transformations. And we want to make sure that we have a way to become more effective at this type of work. So now, going back to the themes that I mentioned before: culture, leadership, employee motivations, communication, the project management side, the employee involvement, and the training. So those are the themes that are highlighted in this paper by McLean. Now, I grouped those into two major categories, and what I found is that you can actually categorize them into I call it the strategy formulation step and the strategy deployment step. So now, if you look at those two major steps in the process, what you actually find is that the big question that I would like to ask is, what are we missing in change management initiatives? So my conclusion is that what we're missing is something I call strategic alignment. And strategic alignment is actually important because it is a mindset, and that's what we're going to discuss in the next few slides. So now, if we actually take the whole approach of the analysis of these themes, you can actually use the Swiss cheese model to actually realize that each one of these themes is crucial to come up with a successful what you call a sustainable change. So the slices represent the barriers or enablers. The holes in the Swiss cheese model represent the individual strength in that part of the system. And what I would like to highlight are the enablers. As I mentioned before, we have a strategy formulation, having a clear vision, strategies, objectives, and priorities. The culture, one of the most important aspects of business transformation we know is culture. Leadership, and when I refer about leadership, it's not just executive leadership, but also leadership on the ground. And of course, the strategy deployment is actually crucial, because that's where we're actually executing the work. So this model allows us to actually recognize that if one of these slices in the Swiss cheese is actually blocking the process, we are actually not going to be able to succeed in the sustainability of this change. So this is actually the key here, to remember that. And of course, what I would like to actually highlight here is that we actually have disciplines that we can learn from. And one of them is the strategic management. The second one is business change management. And the third is of course, is applying the lean principles. And I will explain why lean actually plays a huge role in the success of business transformation. So now I would like to share with you a couple of learnings, a couple of lessons from my experience. So these two stories, one of them is a story where people were actually, in this case, this is a story where people had, the management team had a vision, a very clear vision of where they wanted to go. Now, I'm using what I call a shape of the Kobler-Ross model to actually show how this team A was actually coming up with successful ideas on how to implement their lean transformation. So for example, this happened in an oil and gas production field. This was about 5 to 6 years ago. My role in that particular case was to coach team members in the implementation of lean. The team had started a lean journey. Team A, as you can see here, was in an asset. In that asset, the leaders were actually very clear about the lean, the value the lean was going to bring to the table. So they had a strong conviction for the change. In this asset, the teams were able to adopt and mature a lean process where they integrated their daily production meetings as part of their leaders' standard work. These folks, not only did they track on a daily basis their safety and production targets, but they were also able to track opportunities to reduce unit costs, production unit costs. That's the one that we measure in dollars per barrel. And by doing that, they were able to actually make some quick wins. As a matter of fact, this team was able to reduce the cost of the involved with the sand separators that they used to rent to treat the production at the beginning of the production cycle. In this case, it was gas production. And the comment I would like to make about this is that what made them successful in this particular journey was that, number one, they had a clear vision from the leadership. As you can see here, they had a very discrete number of priorities they were working on. They had a strategy as to how they were going to move those priorities through the Kobler-Ross mountain, if you want to call it. And the beauty of this is that they actually achieve the lowest unit operating costs when benchmarking with other competitors in their area. So this is a good example of how leadership plays a very critical role in the whole business transformation. Having people on the ground that are leaders also play a big role. And I'm going to summarize those big, I call it the big rocks for success in business transformation. So I would like to encourage questions at the end of this presentation to explain more for people that would like more details on this particular case. So now going back to my Swiss cheese model, what I would like to highlight here is that each one of the slices was covered by this team. So the team was bang on. The manager, the leadership team was bang on. The leaders on the ground were bang on. they actually had a strategy. The culture was actually driven to actually support the initiative. And then they also knew how to deploy the strategy by having a very clear standard work. The lean standard work was actually practiced properly. Um, they actually spend a lot of time designing their visual boards, and they had the end in mind. So that's a good example of a team that is successful, and how they were able to achieve it is actually witnessing the benefits of this implementation. So now, on the other side, I'm gonna share with you, in contrast to Team A, there is Team B, and this is what I call Case B. And in Case B, what I learned there is that the folks in the team were frustrated. The Team B members were frustrated. Um, they were actually thinking that their lean efforts were distracting them from their real work. That's one of the comments I got from them. Lean is actually distracting us from our real work. And why did they actually say that? Is that number one is that they had too many initiatives, as you can see here. They had too many competing initiatives in their workload. Besides that, they also had multiple targets. So it was hard for them to actually focus because they had quite the number of targets. Another observation, we I made actually from this case is that the management was actually clear on what they wanted to achieve, but their vision was not really communicated clearly to the folks. So not having that vision clearly communicated to the people was actually something that was not helping, because people were actually trying to achieve a lot of work and they didn't know where they were going. So that's very critical for this for any initiative to be successful. One experience I would like to share with you about the Case B is that as part of my field trips as a lean coach, this was also in a oil and gas field. I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one session with Charles. Charles was the team leader, one of the team leaders in that field. So the conversation went like this. Um, how can we filter our priorities in a way that we can actually get more value, or we can get the team motivated? That's one of the questions. Is there any quick wins that we can achieve so that we can actually get the team excited about what they are doing? Can we actually simplify the work for them by just focusing them on a very few 3 to 5 priorities? The other question that we ask ourselves is, how do we ensure that the priorities that the team is working on are aligned with the top business objectives? So, we actually talk about these questions, and I wanted to make him think on his own about the answers for these questions. So the production leader here, Charles, was actually very quick to actually realize, and he said to me, Hector, I got it. I think that we'll step back on this process and we'll start working on our quick wins first, because our team is going to get excited about removing from their workload this number of projects, and also working on the projects that are going to move the needle in terms of their satisfaction, their employee satisfaction, as well as those projects that will actually add more value in with the perspective of the business objectives. So the team was actually, Charles actually started changing the behaviors himself. Number one is he started changing the behaviors himself. Important for the team to see those behaviors, and the team started in their weekly huddles. They started to review their priorities, and they started to track the projects in a way that they would actually focus only on the ones that added the most value to the team. So there was a big improvement after that. The lesson that we got from here is that without a very clear vision from the beginning, you're actually going to have quite the number of challenges getting the teams motivated to work on the implementation of the initiatives because of what we just said. So now from a if we look again at the Swiss cheese model, what you find here that there was not a very clear strategy formulation process in place. The culture that wasn't helping the culture to really for the people to get motivated about the work. After we actually then identify the opportunity, the local leadership, I call it the local leadership, the level 2 or 3 leadership started getting aligned, and they started moving the deployment. Now, the big question that I ask myself, how sustainable can you be with, I mean, remember that the ultimate outcome that we expect from our change, our business transformation initiatives is that we want to make it sustainable. So, if we don't have all these slices of the Swiss cheese in place, we actually have a high risk of not making our initiative successful. So I question the longevity or the sustainability of any initiative where one or a few of those elements are not really aligned to the strategy and to the needs of the business. So now, I put together this slide to actually provide additional reflections from cases A and B. But the big thing I want you guys to take from this is that we have reflections such as the need to have quick wins to motivate the teams. Very important to have to apply a systematic approach to identify the change risk and the stakeholder management, of course. Now, when you actually look at the reflections and you look at the original themes that we mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, you will actually find that those reflections actually fall within the categories of leadership, motives and expectations, and employee involvement. So now, if we actually step back a little bit, what we're going to learn is that Lean principles provide a lot of direction and guidance when it comes to leadership. What you will find is that we have an opportunity to leverage the Lean culture, not only because the Lean culture brings a lot of improvement in the manufacturing processes and the tools, but also because the philosophy and the principles behind that are actually powerful to actually make our business transformation sustainable, like growing the leaders, process standardization, leaders standard work, the kata, a scientific problem-solving approach, getting people to actually develop their problem-solving capabilities. Those are big elements that help us get the sustainability in place. The second element that is fundamental is a strategic management, applying a strategic formulation before you actually engage in the whole change management process, in the whole business change management process. You need to actually prepare yourself for all the decisions that you need to make to ensure that there is alignment, not only alignment of the goals to the strategies and the whole initiative alignments, but also to make sure that you actually take some tough decisions when it comes to what are the cultural elements that you wanna sustain or you wanna align. What are the big communications that you wanna have to be able to articulate the need for the change? There is going to be a lot of, I guess, a few critical decisions that will allow you to start the business change management process. So please remember, don't start the business change management process and start it only after you have made some strategic decisions on how you want to approach culture, how you want to approach the whole scope of the communications, and how you're going to tackle the stakeholder management as well. So those are the disciplines that we actually can learn from. We can actually improve our likelihood of success by being very holistic about the whole strategy. So now I wanted to share with you something I really like from Willie Peterson. Um, he wrote a book called Strategic Learning. And one of the big things that makes me think about strategic management is that, outperforming competitors on insights and then acting on them is what gives an organization its highest probability of success. So, I want you guys to reflect on this. It's important to use this as a reference because the next slide is going to be related to what I call the strategic model. And the strategic model basically includes the following. So number one is the strategic model that I'm proposing is actually more a way of working or a mindset. And I will explain to you why. So number one is if you are actually embarking in a change, in a business transformation initiatives, the first step that we need to take is actually to understand the internal and external environment. So we need to understand our own culture. Is our culture aligned with where our vision? Have we done recently any business transformation work that actually improve our credibility as from the employees, or do we actually have a bad legacy of changes that make our employees quite skeptical about future changes? Before we embark in any change management, we need to understand what is the status of people's perceptions when it comes to management's decisions, when it comes to the values and beliefs of the company. Very important for us to actually understand the external environment, because at the end of the day, one of the big drivers for you to make the change is actually what's happening outside of the company. And I would like you to encourage you to think about what's happening outside of your industry, because quite often what happens outside of your industry will give you a little bit of an idea about what could happen down the road in your own environment, in your own industry, or in your own company. And that may actually give you opportunities to envision and strategize a bit more of on the long term. So the trends of technologies and the markets are actually information that you need to have very clearly in mind when it comes to the whole strategy for your business. So I recommend using the SWOT analysis, but not in the way that many people use it. Many people use the SWOT analysis to just describe the strengths, opportunities, and the weaknesses and the threats. I actually like the approach by Fred David. He wrote a book on strategic management. It's very popular, but the lesson that you learn from there is that not only do you identify those elements of strength, weaknesses, and so on, but you actually use them to think about how you combine them. For example, to use the strength to take advantage of opportunities, to actually overcome weaknesses by taking advantages of opportunities, by using your strength to mitigate or avoid threats, or by minimizing the weaknesses and avoiding the threats altogether. So this is very important because if you have your leadership team and you have representatives from the company helping you to think about those, you have a better chance to actually come up with the creative strategies that will address the internal and external environment. It's very critical that you actually do that before you embark in any change management initiatives. So now the outcome of this, as you can see, is that the output or the deliverable of this SWOT analysis is that you will end up with alignment on the different strategies, options for strategies that you have. Now, alignment is very important because what happens is you want to make sure that your leadership team is actually on the same page with you as CEO to come up with or pursue any changes that you actually decide to move on. Now, a step that the next step in the whole sequence of events is that you actually decide from the number of strategies that, or alternatives that you came up from the SWOT analysis. Now you actually narrow down on the strategies that you're going to pursue based on a discussion that you have with your team about their priorities and their impact on the business. So I'm not going to go into the details of how you do the what we call the quantitative strategic planning matrix or even the SWOT analysis. What I would like you guys to think or to recognize is that there is a very important strategic formulation step that we cannot skip before moving into the change management execution. And you can use this particular approach, but at the end of the day, the important thing is that you actually apply a systematic approach to the whole strategy formulation process. So now the next step in the whole equation is actually the output of this strategy formulation process is that now you have alignment on the strategies, the objectives, and the KPIs at the leadership level. And that's what I call the what. Now, that needs to be aligned with your culture. You cannot actually come up with the strategies that are misaligned with your culture, because you know that the possibility of people accepting the change is going to be quite low. So you want to make sure that you leverage the culture and that the culture is actually aligned with the whole initiative. The next item that we would like to be aligned, the gain alignment, is actually what I call leaders' behaviors. There is no way that the people are going to start getting excited about your change initiative if we as leaders are showing behaviors that contradict the initiative that we're actually trying to move forward. And of course, the leaders' behaviors and then communication, right? So we want to make sure that the communication, not only do we have communication that gets people excited about the change, but this communication is consistent and this communication is simple. We want to make sure that all of the people are on the same page about the change initiative. We don't want to have a communication that makes things complicated for the people. And one important element of the communication is that we actually consolidate all of those initiatives that you think that are actually contributing to your change. We consolidate them at a very high level so that people don't get overwhelmed by the number of initiatives. We also have the duty to actually reduce the number of initiatives so that people actually focus on the big priorities. And that's something that we all know, but it's also one of the most difficult things to achieve. So now that we have this alignment at the leadership level, now we can actually move into what we call a strategy deployment phase. And this is where the business change management experts are actually very good at implementing those elements of the cultural elements, the communication elements, the tracking of how we're proceeding with the whole change management work. But most importantly, we also need to actually recognize that at the end of the day, what we actually deliver from the strategy formulation process is the what. And that what is actually trickled down to the different levels in the organization. And what we actually need to think about is how we're going to get the feedback from the people from the lower levels so that they are actually very clearly aligned with the top-down strategies, and they are very clearly understanding how they are going to contribute, the how. So this is where the how actually is fed back to us as leaders, and the how actually is converted into fine-tuning our strategies, fine-tuning our objectives in a way that they are more realistic, and they are what we call smart. So in any case, that's what we also call vertical alignment. So now that the most difficult alignment actually is what we call the horizontal alignment. Now the horizontal alignment is difficult because depending on the company or on company's structure, the org structure, You may have a company that have silos, and those silos actually are the toughest ones to integrate because there might be a culture that is actually contradicting the change that you are trying to promote. And for that matter, you have to be completely aware that there is going to be a lot of resistance to actually work together. If you don't put in place the right reward systems, HR reward systems to promote the sharing of goals and to actually start those leaders working together to eliminate or mitigate the impact of the silos. So the of course, once we actually start getting into the whole execution of your change management initiatives, what you want to achieve is what I call quick wins. And the quick wins are powerful because, if you actually have goals that are super long term, people are going to be impatient, or they are not going to be super excited if they actually don't see some immediate rewards. And for that matter, we need to actually have as a must have quick wins that allow your organization to get people excited and motivated. So I think that at the end of the day, this model actually is based on the whole plan, do, check, act, adjust cycle, which is something that we learned from Lean, of course. And as you can see here, Lean actually is powerful in the sense that it brings the structure to the whole change management initiative. It brings the leaders' standard work. It brings the problem-solving capability. It brings the mentality that all these initiatives, at the end of the day, need to support the development of organizational capabilities. And that at the end of the day, your strategies are going to be as successful as the capabilities that you are actually introducing or developing or building in your company. And that's the key here to remember, guys. So, Jabril?
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Hector. This is very thorough, very clearly, very different than what we would see in a typical, I guess, MBA program where there is that kind of approach, maybe more theoretical, whereas you've combined a number of tools into your own, bringing both the pragmatic approach, the experience, but also showing the connection with different tools that are also in more usually seen in a perhaps a business school environment or an MBA or an executive program.
Exactly, Jabril.
That's different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad that that is what we're bringing here. It's a different perspective that triggers a dialogue on how we can continue improving organizational change management.
Yeah, great. So let me share my screen. I believe we are on the same page here. And stop me if I'm not sharing the right page.
You got it, Jabril.
Okay, great. So we have a Q&A follow-up, but not during the webinar. We're taking the conversation, I was going to say offline, but it's still online on LinkedIn. And for those who would like to interact, ask questions, comment, please join us on LinkedIn. And by doing that, you also will qualify for a professional development hour certificate by interacting with us. So I provided a link here. Go to this link. I know that it's a fairly long link. So if you'd like to not, you don't have to type it. You can also follow us on CESA Systems. You can go to the CESA Systems Inc. LinkedIn and you'll see the activity, or you can email me and I'll send you the link. I'll provide you my email. Once you are on that link, you can answer a couple of questions briefly. We want to hear from you for two reasons. Number one, we'd love to know what your key takeaways are following this webinar. And also, if you see any of these approaches really working out for you or not, have you used some of these approaches? What's your experience with them? And without, of course, disclosing anything that you don't want to disclose. That will serve two things. First of all, for us to engage a conversation. I'm sure that many other listeners and members of our page will like to hear from you. The second reason is that then we will document that you actually have listened to the webinar. You made it all the way to the end, and you're really taking away some learnings and thinking about it. We want these professional development hour certificates to have real value. So it's not just an attendance certificate. It's really a way for us to make sure that you've given some thought to this and make that certificate worthwhile for you. So if also you're interested in hearing about our future webinars, please join us again on LinkedIn, but this time in our LinkedIn group. The title of the group is pretty long. We might have to change it at some point, but you will find us by typing linkedin.com/groups/860-5844. And so I'll let you write it down if you wish, or type it right away. Hopefully we'll see some of you soon as members. We actually are now more than 2,000 members, all of them peers of yours, no spam, primarily a way to inform you of our webinars, to share the recordings of the webinar, and sometimes we also share interesting, useful information, job opportunities, etc. This webinar is part of the CISA Systems Academy, which is a lab space where we demo a number of our products, and hundreds of executives join every year to learn how to use them in sometimes very simple products, but that, as you all know, can make a big difference in the spirit of Kaizen. And we are also offering this online series of webinars as an extension to the CISA Systems Academy. If you'd like to also learn more, I mean, instead of a textbook, we are offering a catalog, but really that's almost similar in the sense that it's organized by product categories, but you'll see also how they can be useful to all the lean programs that you may think about, whether it is 5S, TPM, as you could see here, compliance when you need stainless steel, visual management in a really thoughtful manner. So if you'd like to have this catalog on paper, please email, and or you can also go on the website and request it. And if you'd like to have it as a PDF, it's also available as a PDF. So for those who'd like to connect with Hector, you have here his LinkedIn, telephone, email, and you also have mine down here. Again, thank you so much, Hector, for sharing your experience with us. Great content, and look forward to seeing you all on a future webinar.
Thanks a lot, Gabriel, and thanks everyone. Appreciate the time to review this, explore this theme. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, great. Thank you. And that's true. That very often sharing, joining a webinar and sharing your experience is a chance to kind of reflect on your own experience. So I'm glad you also enjoyed it. And by the way, anyone who would like to also join us and share their experience, please reach out. All right, bye everyone.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.